In this video, I'm going to talk about adding queue treatments. So that is the messages that you deliver while your callers are sitting in queue. So in a normal basic situation, your call comes in, checks the schedule, goes through some say or play commands to let the caller know that they've got the different options they can choose. So say for instance, they've chose option 1, which is a forward to queue, and now while they're in the queue, they're just going to listen to music. Well, if you don't add any queue treatments, that's all they're going to do is listen to whatever the music on hold is until an agent gets to them. If it's less than a minute, probably not a problem. However, if your callers sometimes stay in there for more than a minute or even 5 minutes, you want to provide them with some kind of reassuring message to let them know maybe that their call is important or that you're experiencing normal, higher than normal call volume. So here's how those are done. Right here, when you've got where you've got the forward to queue, right below it is the in queue. So this is what happens while we're in the queue. What you can do is you can do two things. You can add a loop or you can add an initial action. The best practice is usually start with an initial action. So click on the object, click add initial action. The initial action is going to be something like, please wait for the next available agent. So I don't have any recording, so I'm just going to do a say command. To say is when you do the text to speech. Next agent, and this is where whatever you type here gets set as a text-to-speech conversion, and it actually works quite well. So this will be please wait for the next agent, or whatever it is you want to say, and we can save that. So that's my initial action. So I've been forwarded the queue. The first thing I hear is please wait for the next agent, and then now I start listening to the music. Well, after some time, we want to come back and remind them that we haven't forgotten about them or that things are a little busier than usual. We can do what's called adding a loop. So back here on the in queue, we want to click add loop. And the object tag is really just any kind of name you want to give it. I'm going to call this first loop because you can have more than one loop and they can have different behaviors. How many times do I want this to happen? Well, I think I'm just going to have this happen 2 times. All right, so in my first loop, I have a time interval. And the time interval is how often do I want this event to occur. So the default is 2 minutes, which I think is a little too long. So I'm going to click on Edit. I'm going to ratchet this down to 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, whatever action I put underneath this will be executed every 30 seconds. So I'm going to add another. You could play a recording, or in this case I don't have one, so I'm going to use a say command. This will be just a comfort message. Let's see, it could be something like your call is important to us. Call is important to us, please continue to hold. And by the way, if you haven't worked with the say commands, one little piece of advice I'll give you is it does not like contractions. So when you type in anything here to be said, make sure you use non-contracted words. So don't use will or as in we will, or don't use it's as in it is. Avoid contractions. Okay, so now what we've got is call comes in, listens to the main messages, they choose option 1, they go to the queue. The first action is to say, please wait for the next agent, or whatever you want it to say. And then it goes to the first loop. The problem is here is that it immediately plays what's under the first loop. Well, that doesn't really make any sense because we just told them to wait for the next agent, and now we're immediately telling them that their call is important. All right, so what we want to do to solve this problem is we want to add a time interval. And a time interval, I'll explain in a minute, is going to solve that problem. I call this the spacer loop or the spacer interval. And I set that to 30 seconds or whatever I want it to be. And got that. And then I'm going to have that, yes. All right, so here's what happens. Before I was playing my initial say message, which was please wait for the next agent, and then I was going straight to the first loop, which was saying, your call is important to us. Well, that doesn't make any sense because we really haven't waited yet. So what we do is we put in this little spacer here, which provides 30 seconds of nothing but the cue music until we get to the next spot where we say the comfort message. and then that will continue to execute for however many times you've listed in the loop. So remember, back here on the loop, if I look at this, I've got that set for 2 times. If I want that to be indefinite, I would just simply change that to 999, and that would buy you several hours, I think, of time. But what a lot of people will do is after they've done that for 2 times, then they will escalate another loop, which they'll put in another loop, and they'll escalate it to something like we're experiencing, more than normal call volume, and then you can offer things like callbacks and voicemails, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but that's a best practice for this type of thing. All right, so I hope that helps you out with your queue treatments, and thanks for watching.